Aftershocks right here on AftershocksTV.com. And of course, you recognize the face right there. He was the main guy, I'm gonna say, in Ill Nino for the run of that band. And he's back with at least from the single that I've heard, a surprisingly different sounding thing. And I'm glad to speak to him once again. He's Cristian Machado of Cristian, I guess now.
Cristian Machado of Cristian Machado now.
Exactly, man. Well, dude, first of all, welcome to the show, man.
No, thank you for having me, man. It's great seeing you after such a long time, dude.
Yeah, man. It's great. I wish it was under the better circumstances, but I guess it is good circumstances. You know,
it's tough. The state that the U.S. especially is in right now is challenging for anyone.
Exactly. And for a guy like you that's really pivoting your career, you know, I've got to imagine that this pandemic could not have come at a worse time for you, because you're trying to reinvent what you do a little bit, and at the same time you can't get out there and show people.
Yeah, that is tough. I actually was supposed to leave to go on tour in a week and a half, and everything had to be moved back. But we expect right now booking agents are absolutely working at peak level, trying to figure out how to save the touring industry.
Sure.
Booking agents and promoters alike right now are both working at fucking top level every single day, trying to figure out when shows can begin, when things will be safe, when fans will feel safe, when bands can begin to make money again.
Right. How about
it's challenging for sure, man. You know,
I'm sure. How about for you personally? Is there something that has to happen when you'll feel safe, or are you just like, I'm gonna roll with whatever comes, or where do you stand with that?
You know, it really comes down to everyone. Because shows are something that's so social, you know,
right?
And going to a concert is such a social thing that this isn't one of those situations where an artist can come out and say, well, I'm going to do it now and I don't care what anybody says. That's just going to show you're a friggin' non-caring prick.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And rightfully so. Fans too. I mean, some fans might feel like, I want my shows now, you know, but think about, you know, all the other fans that have family, and, you know, if they go somewhere, they might be risking a family member or something like that. So it's not, for me, man, I'm willing to wait. And as near depression, I think that this shit has brought almost everyone.
Sure.
I think everyone is trying to deal with this as best possible.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I'm amazed at how most Americans have been able to hold it together.
Sure.
Despite the chaos that's going on in the country, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Most Americans have, one way or another, been holding it together.
Sure.
And it should be said, because everything is a shit show. But when you think about it, 95% of America is just like, okay, maybe next month it'll be okay.
Right. Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah, it's very challenging, man. And you know, the interesting thing about shows is, you know, actually going out and performing concerts is, you don't have to, you know as well as I do, there's people that think that this coronavirus is the end all be all thing. It's going to kill everybody. There's people that think it's bullshit and it doesn't exist at all. No matter what you believe in it, though, it's that unknown risk that is why would you take an unknown risk to go and see a show? You know, I mean, as much as we all love shows, and you've performed thousands of shows, I've seen thousands of shows, I'm sure you've seen thousands of shows on top of performing them. Would you really want people to come out and take a risk and potentially kill themselves and their families for, you know, to see 10 new tunes or whatever? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
You pretty much nailed it, though, because that's what it is. It is a risk, because nobody really knows how this virus works.
Right.
It absolutely doesn't affect some people, but then this completely healthy person had to be intubated, you know? So
right.
there are many cases, and I've gone on what they call survival Facebook groups.
Right.
You know, people that had it bad and are actually telling their story, and there's thousands, tens of thousands of accounts of people that were completely healthy,
Sure.
that have yet to properly recover because of this. And they were like with an extremely high fever for like 2 weeks, and then but they've yet to recover in some form or another. They still have like nervous system issues and things
Right.
like that. So it is really that, dude. It's a huge risk, you know. And sure, it's not that if you go to a show, you're assured somebody might die, but you're risking that this thing could be out there, and definitely somebody that might not be expecting to be affected by it could be. You know, like my niece got it for a couple months. You know, my whole family's in New York, and I'm lucky that really my niece was the only one to get it, you know. But even she, who's a young kid, she's 18, 19 years old, it got her bad. And she lost her taste, her sense of taste and her sense of smell for months.
Wow.
I mean, she claims it's still not back, but I really don't know. I haven't really like interviewed her lately, you know.
Right.
But it really comes down to that. It's a risk, man. And shows are something, like I was saying before, shows are something so social, so tribal, you know,
Right.
so primordial. Before politics or before we knew what viruses were, the people got together and sang and danced together. So it's something that can only come back when everybody feels comfortable. I think little by little, you know, if the right measures are taken, if ever the right measures are taken throughout the whole country, because right now it's like state to state, everybody's arguing about what measures should be taken.
Right.
You live in one state, you know, people are taking it serious. If you live in another state, people are like, fuck these rules. I don't care what they are. You know? That's where it gets foggy, you know. Another thing is, you know, I feel like everyone should know the truth. If we are to go back to an open society, let's confirm where this thing came from, and let's do something about it not occurring again.
Right.
You know, because if we're gonna just sit back and go, it occurred, let's look for treatment, and we're not gonna address how this came to be, how dumb are we as a society? This has impacted our society in a way. Look at what it's done to the music industry, dude. It's insane. I'm not even talking about me, but people that work at venues, promoters, booking agents, bartenders, parking lot attendants.
Right,
You know, I mean, everything that surrounds the music industry, restaurants that when there's a show, they expect, you know, they pretty much live off of the revenue that comes from the people that go to the show and to eat nearby. So, you know, and federally, nothing's being done for those people. Those people can't even collect a PPP check. You know? So it's crazy. And I think everybody's doing everything they could to really just hold it together and say, look, the most important thing is exactly that, having as least risk as possible.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Stay safe and live to feel the recovery another day, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep,
but I do feel bad for the kids, you know. I mean, when you think about, I don't know, I guess 30-year-olds now, if they're 30-year-old, they call them millennials or something.
Right. Yeah.
But the millennials really got screwed if you think about it, because they were born at a time, and then 9/11 happened when they were born, and then not when they were born, but you know, when they were like preteen, 9/11 happened, and then when they were like, you know, almost in their teen years, then the 2008 stock market crash happened.
Right. Yeah.
COVID and all this, you know, closures of everything. Man, we need to figure it out over here, you know. That's why they're like, yeah, maybe they feel entitled, and maybe we're like, those entitled little pricks. But man, if you really think about the shit that they had to grow up with, I know that in the past there was like bigger things that occurred, like the World War II era was some very serious shit. But, you know, the economy that these kids are having to grow up in, the constant every 10 years, some like intense current event that completely devastates the economy. That's scary, man. You
Yeah,
know?
it is. It definitely is it definitely has forced them to have a, you know, we grew up, you know, I'm 51, and as a 51-year-old, you know, I grew up in the 80s, and there was nothing to be scared of in the 80s. That was party time.
You, dude. So we basically grew up in the same era, pretty much.
Yeah. So you know as well as I do, 80s, there was nothing to think about but, you know, pussy and party, and that was it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like viruses wasn't a thing you thought about in the 80s. I mean, AIDS was something that brought on the notion of you have to be careful. There are things out there that can kill you.
Right.
And I think that maybe that was the thing of our generation that brought on some type of like health observation, you know, of society. But yeah, like you said, in the 80s, it was pretty much like grow up, have fun, you know, go to shows, party,
Yeah.
you know, meet chicks. I don't know, just really just hang out. And I remember during the late 80s, early 90s, I was like going to school, and I was into school for a little bit, but I had dropped out and then went to college, and
Right.
even had to have like my own personal, like, what do I want to do kind of thing. But I think in those years, you still kind of had the ability to do that, where now a lot of these kids got to figure it out soon, like quick. What are you going to do?
Right.
You know, because there isn't a lot of chances. If you're going to go to college, make sure you go to college for something you can get a job at, or else you're going to have a big debt for something you're not going to work at.
Right.
So these kids now have different sets of challenges.
They do, man. They certainly do. Well, I'll tell you what, Cristian, let's we could talk about this stuff all day, I'm sure, but you know, the focus of this conversation is supposed to be about your new music. You've got this new single out there called Die Alone, and anybody that's out there
in the middle of a pandemic, I'm like, check out my new music.
Exactly. But I'll tell you what, and I'm sure you've heard this from every interview you've done, and I'm going to say it again anyway. Anybody that came into this thinking, okay, cool, it's going to be something new that sounds like Ill Nino, is being shocked, you know, because it's really very different, and it's cool different. It's got a lot more of your personal vibe into it. It's not as, you know, it's certainly not the happiest tune I've ever heard from you, but you know, and it showcases your voice in a whole new way, man. It's very, very cool. It really does send a jarring effect to the listener that comes in with an expectation.
Okay. Well, I mean, I love hearing that. I can't lie. You know, as a musician, I think the true musician always at heart has this real innocent, but it could also be an Achilles heel if done the wrong way, but musical curiosity. You know, you're like, you're literally a musician, and constantly asking yourself, what's new that I could feel cool doing? You know, you're constantly looking for a little bit, some kind of growth internally, especially in the kind of music I do, I guess, because it's personal. I write about a lot of personal things. So I guess perhaps I'm always looking for some type of like musical expansion and musical growth in that.
Sure.
But it was scary, dude. You know, I ain't gonna lie. It's scary doing something different, doing a full 180. I knew and I accepted that it wasn't going to be for everyone at a very early stage.
Sure.
And you know, I don't want to say a very early stage, because at first I really didn't know if it would be accepted or not. And then later on, I wound up realizing, oh, okay, well, I'm making something that's not for everyone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm making something that is for a general music listener. But if you're into the niche thing, like the deep niches, you know, the extremely extreme metal, or like, let's say, super poppy pop music, then it's not really for you. You know, if you're into super poppy pop music, that's probably a little bit too dark for you. If you're into the super extreme rock, that's probably too light.
Right.
You may connect with the heaviness of the sentiment, you know, in the songs, but it is different, man. And, you know, for someone to say that it is shocking I think it's good, you know, because I definitely didn't want I wouldn't want to just keep doing the same thing, you know.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I'll get back to doing metal eventually, but even in that, if I get back to doing metal, I want it to be like fucking amazing, like really,
Right.
really good shit. I want the songs to like speak for themselves, you know.
Sure. Definitely.
Um, I guess this was just a you know, another side of me that really kind of always existed. I've always been a songwriter first.
Right.
You know, in my old band, I was the main songwriter for
Mhm.
pretty much the developing and the establishing of the act. I was the main songwriter, and this is just like a something that always existed, but I never did at this level
Sure.
of vulnerability or stripped back from all instrumentation and things like that. Even though on the album there are other songs that have more instrumentation, a couple of
Okay.
electronic little things,
Right.
some drums here and there, but you know it's stripped back. There's no distortion. I'm not screaming, so it's absolutely different
Sure.
than anything you've heard.
Absolutely. Now, no secret, the lawsuit was ugly. What was is I'm not sure if it's still going on or not, and I don't want to get into the whole
No,
thing because I'm sure.
we settled, you know,
Yeah, okay.
and we have an NDA. There's not much that I could really
Sure.
talk about, but then again, that also allows me to let it go.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
allows me to just focus on things that. And at the end of the day, Diego Aru and I had that discussion. You know, it was like we could keep this going forever, or at least for a few more years, or we could just say, look, we've gone far enough. Let's just take a
Right.
step back. You guys do what you want to do. We're going to go this way and do this thing.
Right. So are you indeed working on any level with I know obviously the two guys you're not working with, but the for the other for yeah, for are you working with them, or planning to work with them again, or is that just kind
Yeah,
of
no, we are. We absolutely are. I haven't talked about it at all, at
okay.
all. Um, and it's something that we're not really like in a rush to like prove anything to anybody, but we do have almost a half an album finished,
Right.
and
Okay.
it is phenomenal. It's
Great.
phenomenal. The songs are phenomenal. Like this is, you know, we're trying to write a metal album clearly, but that is full of hit singles on it.
Okay.
It's a challenging thing to do, but we'll take our time if that's what it takes, you know.
Sure.
But we're working on things, you know. And Aru and Diego, the material they presented me is fucking next level. Like,
Very cool.
you know, it's not like this extreme metal thing, but the songs are phenomenal. Really, really catchy.
Right.
Really strong material. Some of the best music that I've been thrown at to sing on, and I can't remember since when. And we're working with a fucking amazing producer.
Sure. Now, did and again, you don't have to tell me who or what, but is there already a machine behind it, as in a
Yeah.
record company and you know,
Well, not a record company, but there are music industry friends who are interested in growing this with us. We could
okay,
say that. We don't have like a contract with anyone yet or anything like that.
okay,
There is a group of people who are, you know,
right,
because of friendships, because of just, you know, being real with people, I guess. After being in the music industry for so long, um, I definitely made my share of mistakes, you know, focusing on the wrong things, you know, partying too much through some years, only caring about women for some years, and, you know, things like that, but only caring about chasing women. Not like I was getting married, you know, um, but eventually, you know, I realized that, well, at least I didn't burn any bridges, man. You know, I was
sure,
always decent to people. I never like, if I had a bad day, I had a bad day. But you know, if it was once, two times a month, then I have to apologize. Not, you know, nobody really is always in the mood to be like, "Hey, how are you?"
right,
But you know, I at least have some good friends, and the people we're working with in the group have really good friends, and you know, are
sure,
loved in the industry. And like
absolutely,
I said, we're not in a rush. We definitely want to be able to come out guns blazing if we're going to do
absolutely,
the metal thing. You know, we want the songs to be right.
Right. And you know, one of the good things, and it's very true about you, and I can say this from experience, you have always, you and the band really, including the guys that aren't even with you anymore, you know, the band was always approachable. You guys were always, you know, whether it was playing a giant show or you know, like an Ozfest type of a crowd, or whether it was playing in a club, you guys always came out, met the fans, shook hands, took pictures. You guys were always that band anyway. I think that's going to play well for you as you move to this next phase. I think a lot of those fans, they're going to give, first of all, they're going to give your solo thing, which is different from Ill Nino. They're going to give your solo thing a fair chance. They're not going to just, you know, blow it off because you've been cool to them. And I think when you put the next metal project out as well, people are going to give you more of a fair shake than, you know, than they might have if you were kind of a prick to them at a show, you know?
Sure, sure. I mean, I think we probably had that mentality because having come out of the New York hardcore scene, like our idols were those people, you know? Our idols in the hardcore scene, the Bad Brains, the Cro-Mags, Leeway, you know, Sick of It All, Biohazard, Agnostic Front. I mean, I could keep going. All the New York, New Jersey hardcore bands that influenced us, and the mentality we had, and especially the stage performance that we had. So to us, it was like, this is how it's done. You meet your fans, you know, you say hello. These are the people that are connecting with your music, you know, and I realized that bigger acts have to protect themselves a little bit more, and because maybe they have more people, and if you meet 100 people, then 500 more are going to want to meet, and then I realized there are some restrictions at some point. But at our level, you know, it was fucking one of the most badass things to do was to meet the fans at the meet and greet before the show.
Sure. Definitely, man. Well, Cristian, when does the new album come out? And tell me a little bit about the songs that are not Die Alone, because you know that's obviously one small picture in a, you know, a landscape that you've been building for a year. So tell me a little bit about the rest of the album. How does it compare to the first single?
Well, Die Alone is definitely the most stripped back song on the album.
Okay.
Where, you know, it's really just an acoustic guitar, me, and a very subtle violin, very subtle piano. There isn't like a drum beat. There's just some timpani there. And it's really subtle. You know, the other songs have different vibes where the album all fits together very well. It's a very fluid album. The emotion and the intent from song to song, I think, is very fluid, despite having covers on there. But it does have different, you know, I guess, valleys and stuff like that. Like some songs have a drum beat there. Some songs have like a synthesizer. And then some songs have a drum beat throughout the entire song. Some songs have a drum beat that only come in and out of the song. Some songs have solos, some songs don't. It's got like this cool fluid thing going on, but it experiments within the room. You know, in making this kind of album, I knew that I had to focus it within a certain vibe and style. You know, I couldn't like do 3 songs like this and then put like 3 songs like that and then 3 songs like that. I've never been one to be into albums that don't have an identity.
Right.
I like my albums to have an identity, to have a vibe. I like to put on an album and to know that if this is the kind of album I'm listening to, I can listen to it beginning to end without skipping songs.
Sure. There's
still like that 80s kid in me where the album is, you know, almighty, and if every song on the album is great, then you've really truly done something cool. But, you know, but in doing that, I had to also realize, okay, I'm, like I said earlier, I'm not making an album for everyone. You know?
Right, sure.
It has to be in a particular vibe, and, you know, this is the kind of album you would like listen to your family with, or meditate to, or like if you're going on a long drive and, you know, want to think about life and stuff like that, or you know, if there's some you might listen to like at your wedding reception or something like that. You know, it's a different kind of listening experience, but nonetheless, having been such a broad music fan throughout my life, you know, I grew up in another country. I didn't even know what metal was until I was 14 and immediately became a metalhead once I found what it was. But I think like that musicianship curiosity kind of lingered in me, and it led me to this. You know, I realize it's not an album for everyone, but it's focused within that very real, genuine kind of personal experience, and the vibe. The instrumentation is a little bit different from song to song, but the vibe is solid, you know.
Sure. Very cool, man. And when's it out?
The album drops September 25th, so we're like pretty much a month away.
Very cool, man. Well, I'll tell you what, man, people definitely need to check it out. Cristian Machado, you know him from the last 20 years of rocking the stages. Now he's gonna show you a different side. And I'll tell you what, Cristian, why don't we wrap this one up by showing the video for Die Alone and give people a taste? How's that sound?
Sounds amazing. Thank you so much for featuring that, brother. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, no problem, man. Well, check it out right now. It's Cristian Machado. It is Die Alone, and this is Aftershocks.
Thanks for listening to Aftershocks. For more episodes, go to our website at www.aftershockspodcast.com. Visit us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more news and information on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe, listen to, and review all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. For your music listening pleasure, visit our website or go to www.shockwavesradio.com. For all comments and questions, please email us at info@aftershockspodcast.com.